Oh, I think I shouldn't be here, right? Anyway, open heart, open mind. Welcome to the Sabah channel, the official platform of the Sabah project. So I'm here to introduce Ram. Ram will be our host for tonight's dialogue.
Hello.
Yeah, hand out everything over to you, Ram.
Thank you, Brother Sharap. Open Heart, Open Mind. Welcome to the Satwa channel, the official online platform for the Satwa project. First of all, on behalf of Satwa project, I would like to express our thankfulness to our StreamYard sponsor and media partners, Durian, ASIN, and Durian FM. And not to forget also the important man behind the scene, our broadcast director for tonight, Brother Ray. Thank you very much for your generous contribution and kind efforts. Hi, Brother Ray. Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Please like and share this video to benefit more people. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, do subscribe to our channel, like and share the video. Now back to you.
Thank you, Brother Ray. I will continue from here. Today we'll be discussing on the Daily Dharma series, Mistaken Views and Misconceptions about Buddhism. The main topic will be, can lay practitioner become liberated or enlightened? This is actually an interesting topic because I have been asked and I have heard several times that the way to go is not uh, for non-lay. So it will be an interesting discussion tonight. So we have a few panelists today. So we will go over their profile first. Of course, it's myself. I'm the dialogue coordinator of the Sattva youth. I came from the IT background, and I have worked both in the East and the West, and have a master degree in IT from the University of Liverpool. I'm also have worked in different discussion dialogues and protocols like Aristotle's Cafe discussion, and I'm a certified Aristotle's Cafe discussion facilitator. Okay, so we'll go to our panelists today. First, let me introduce Dr. Giuliano. He has a PhD in Indological Studies from University of Turin and Master of Arts in Indian Religions and Philosophy from La Sapienza University of Rome. Lecturer at the International PhD program in Textual Buddhist Studies at Mahidol University in Thailand. And he's also a translator and lecturer at the Fondazione Maitreya project. Welcome, Dr. Giuliano.
Hello, Ram. Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too. Our next panelist or contributor is Ajahn Bibek. He was born in Nepal, finished his Bachelor of Arts in Buddhist Studies in International Buddhist College, IBC, Thailand. Further, he completed his Master of Arts in Buddhist Studies in Foguang University in Taiwan, where he learned classical Buddhist Chinese and translated a correspondence between Kumarajiva and Huiyuan to complete his Masters of Art thesis. For his PhD, he joined Mahidol University, and he is currently working on Yashomitra's Abhidharmakosha Vyakya, a subcommentary of the Abhidharmakosha Bhashya, to complete his PhD thesis. Currently, he is translating the first chapter of Abhidharmakosha Bhashya as translated by Zunzang for BDK in Japan. He reads Chinese, Sanskrit, Hindi, and French, apart from his own mother tongue, Nepali. Welcome, Ajahn Bibek.
Sawadee Krap. Thank you, Ram.
Thank you. And our next contributor is Bem Mitruev. Bem Mitruev is a translator from the Tibetan language from 1995 to 2005. Bem studied at the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in Varanasi in India, where he studied Tibetan history, poetry, Buddhist philosophy, Tibetan language, Sanskrit, and Hindi. Bem received the degree of Acharya, Master of Buddhist Philosophy. He currently works as a translator for the Buddhist teachers who come to Russia to teach. Welcome, Bem. Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome. And so I hope you are all doing well in different parts of the world. And so today's topic is about frequent misconceptions, about how can a lay practitioner. So today's topic is about become liberated or enlightened, or maybe if you can give examples, also maybe some scriptural sources, and also, of course, some interesting insights into this will be great. But before we start, maybe I would like Vivek to maybe chant us some refuge prayer, and then we will begin there.
Okay, so I will chant in Sanskrit the refuse prayer, which has the Bodhicitta too. Buddham cha dharmam cha gadottamam cha yavadibodhim saranam gatosmi danadipunnaischa kritairmaevir buddho bhaveyam jagato hitaya buddham cha dharmam cha gadottamam cha yavadibodhim saranam gatosmi दानादिपुन्नैश्च कृतैर्मयेभिः बुद्धो भवेयं जगतो हिताय बुद्धं च धर्मं च गणोत्तमं च यावद्विबोधिं शरणं गतोऽस्मि दानादिपुन्नैश्च कृतैर्मयेभिः बुद्धो भवेयं जगतो हिताय. Okay, so this is, well, the first part is the refuse on Triple James, and then the second part is the Bodhicitta that I will be I will become a Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn Bibek. Maybe we take a few seconds, maybe like 5 seconds, where we allow ourselves and our audience to take a deep breath, and then we will start. Okay, welcome everyone. Maybe as I have mentioned the topic, who would like to start on this about a lay practitioner? What is your view, and what do you think about can lay practitioner actually become enlightened, or does everybody have to become bhikshu, bhikshuni to become for example, attain nirvana or to achieve full enlightenment? Who would like to start? Anyone? Maybe Ajahn Giuliano?
Well, as far as I remember from the Pali sources, actually the goal for lay people is not directly enlightenment. There is indeed there are or maybe we would say it is awakening or enlightenment or liberation, of course, as a primary goal, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be attained in this very life as a lay person. So the path, one should follow the path, but the attainment that usually is ascribed to a lay person is to become a sotapanna. A stream enter. That means that one renounces or cuts off completely, severes the first three chains or samyojana fetters, which are Sakayaditti, Vicikiccha, and Silabhata Paramasa. Also, the I would say the self-view, doubt, or like paralyzing doubt, and attachment to habits, in a way, I would say, to rituals, habits, and so on, including mental habits. So once a layperson has destroyed them, becomes a stream enterer. At that point, they cannot go to a bad destination, cannot go to a hell, to a lower realm, but is that being is destined to final liberation, to progress until she reaches the final liberation. But technically, in my memory, I don't remember any case when a lay person in the Sutta Pitaka becomes an arahant.
Okay. And is there a specific number of lifetimes or years or something like this? Once after one becomes a
Oh,
stream enterer or
yeah, it
something
should
like that?
be in 7 lifetimes. So it's like it is guaranteed that you are going to become an arahant. So basically, you have liberation in your pocket, but you still have some rounds left. You have these 7 rounds, and they can be quite pleasant indeed because you are going to be reborn in a devaloka. There is, for instance, there is one Metta Sutta where the Buddha says, "Don't be afraid of punya, merit." Means that if you accumulate merit, he says the merit punya is a synonym of sukha, happiness. So basically, in this direction here, you are going to experience a lot of happiness. And the Buddha says, a long time ago, I decided to spend many kappas in a devaloka, in a beautiful realm of pleasure and happiness. So it's like, in a way, you may have this holiday before the final liberation. So basically, I would say that my personal opinion is not bad news. So it's not saying that a lay person is excluded from arahanthood, from the final stage of liberation, but this being may reach, I would say, an intermediary level of, that means one of the fruits, the first fruit of the path, no, the first pala, and that person is going also to reach the final goal. So it's like the final goal, but just a little bit procrastinated. So I would say not a big deal. So when I don't think that should discourage anyone from practicing. It's like to say that in the endless lifetimes you have only 7 lifetimes left, and also they will be very, very, very pleasant. So
I see.
I see that as good news in a way. But on the other hand, I'll say that I don't think that there are cases. If I remember correctly, if one becomes an arahant as a layperson, that person is supposed to ordain. Otherwise, will die.
Right, right. Okay. Thank you, Ajahn Giuliano. Maybe Ajahn Bibek, are you still with us?
Yes. Can you see
Okay.
me
Yes, I
or
can see you.
hear me? Thank you,
Yes.
Ram. Thank you. As you mentioned, this is an important question because I was also asked several times here in Thailand and in many parts whether I'm a monk. Because when I say that I'm a teacher, I study Buddhism, I teach, and I practice, then naturally people think that you have to be a monk. Um, can you hear me still?
Yes. Yes. Very well.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it was frozen. Um, and then if you remember last time when we were discussing on this platform about Guru Rinpoche, one very famous Indian master, contemporary master, was saying that Guru Padmasambhava is not a Buddhist because he has wives. So these kind of concepts are there. So there's an ingrained idea that in order to practice Buddhism, one has to be an ordained person. Um, well, I partially agree with, mostly agree with Ajahn Giuliano has said. As far as I know, there is one sutta in Majjhima Nikaya where it is mentioned that some 21, I think I'm frozen again.
No,
You're fine. We can
we
hear
can
you.
hear. Yes.
Sorry. So there is one sutta in Majjhima Nikaya which says that there were 21 lay practitioners who had attained Amrita Pada or something like this, deathlessness. Now this word, well, it is contested, of course, by scholars, but this word Amrita Pada is used for Nibbana itself in many places in Pali Sutta, as far as I know. So there is this idea within the Pali tradition itself, or we can say it's Theravada tradition. I would like to also point out to the fact that there is one anecdote where Buddha is about to it wasn't Buddha was about to leave. The Mara comes and then requests Buddha to leave this world. Then the Buddha says, I haven't prepared my four parisa, or the four groups of practitioners, monk, nun, lay, male and female, are not yet complete. So I'm not going to leave this world. But later on, which is recorded in Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Buddha, when Mara comes and requests him again, then the Buddha says, okay, I'm going to leave now because now my four parisa is complete. So this implies that they were very high Buddhist practitioners from both camp, lay and ordained, and some of them, it looks like, had also reached to the point of Nibbana. So I think there are some references which says that even a lay person can attain it. And then here I would like to perhaps say something about this word enlightenment or something. As far as I know, even the Srotapanna stage is considered as an enlightenment in Buddhism. It starts from there, right? So if you are talking about the final arhathood, or from the Buddhist Mahayana point of view, some other stages, it's a different thing. But as far as enlightenment is concerned, touching the enlightenment, reaching the Srotapanna at least, that is possible. If you are talking about even further up to the Arhathood, it looks like there are some references within Pali tradition. Thank you.
Yeah, Ajahn Bibek, you mentioned about a few sexual references. Can you please repeat where those came from again, please?
Which references? I
The
could not hear.
suttas. The
Oh yeah,
suttas.
there are several suttas about the lay practitioners attaining higher realization, but there is one sutta. I don't remember the name, but it is in Majjhima Nikaya, where it is said that there were 21 lay practitioners who had attained the Amrita Pada, or the deathlessness. And this word, the deathlessness, is used normally for Nibbana within Pali text, as far as I know. So maybe Ajahn Giuliano can explain it further.
Okay. Now, Bem, welcome. You have something to say on this?
Well, as far as I can see now, we were talking only in the frame of Theravada. Am I right? Only in the Pali tradition. And if we talk about the lay practitioners attaining enlightenment from the both traditions, I mean Theravada and Mahayana, or Pali and Sanskrit traditions, so it seems to me that in both traditions, it's quite possible for a lay person, to obtain enlightenment. Talking from the point of the Pali tradition, I would like to bring the example of the Buddha's father, whose name was Shuddhodana. And probably all of you know, if I'm not mistaken, it is set in his biography, in the narrative about his life, that he became a lay arahant. On his deathbed. Buddha preached to him, and he in succession obtained all the four fruits of the practitioner. And on his deathbed, immediately before he died, he became lay arahant. And I completely agree with Giuliano. In the text, in the scriptures, it is usually said that a lay person who obtains arahathood must either die on the next day or become a monk on the next day. It is said in the Milinda Panya, if I'm not mistaken. It mentions there that a lay disciple, a lay person who attains the arhathood, either ordains that very day or will enter final nirvana like nibbana on the next day. And it seems to me that in even it's the father's Buddha is a good example of a layperson obtaining arhathood. So probably we could say that it's possible if we talk from the Pali tradition. And if we talk from the Mahayana tradition, we can bring numerous examples of persons, of people who attained, so to say, complete and perfect Buddhahood, being laypersons. If you remember, there are a biography of 84 Mahasiddhas, the great accomplished persons, and all of them, all of them were lay. Some of them in the first part of their lives, they were ordained monks who studied a lot, studied in such monasteries like Nalanda, Vikramashila, Otantapuri, and etc. But later, in the later part of their lives, they became tantric practitioners, and they became, so to say, that's how the tradition says, they became enlightened. And if you do not look even from the Tantra tradition, but follow the Mahayana sutras, even in those sutras, it is said that lay bodhisattvas, lay practitioners, also can obtain the Buddhahood, the state of the Buddha, the complete and perfect enlightenment. The only difference is, as the tradition says, that for the monks it's a bit easier to perform, because they do not have to perform all the family chores, all the family duties, being a father and earning money for sustaining your family and etc. And for monks, it's easier for them to dedicate whole life, all the time, for the practice in order to become an enlightened person. That's how I remember it.
Okay. Thank you, Bem. I'm just wondering about few things that I have heard or learned myself about three different stories. One is in the last, I believe the one of the previous lifetime before Prince Siddhartha was born. He gave his own flesh and blood to feed the young cubs and the mother tiger, if I'm not mistaken. But please clarify if I'm wrong. I don't think he was bhikshu back then, but it is believed that he attained, he completed the highest level of bodhisattva accomplishment. If I'm inaccurate on this, please correct me. Do you have a view on this?
Well, I think it's not exactly the way. He was practicing bodhisattva practices at that period of time, and especially the dana paramita, so the perfection of giving. That's why he gave his body, and he gave. You are completely right. They say that this place somewhere in Nepal. Vivek, am I right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, they say that there is a holy place in Nepal where it happened, and he gave his body to the tigress and to her cubs. But all of the sources that I know say that Buddha obtained his complete enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, in Vajrasana, in Bihar, in the Bodh Gaya. So I'm not sure is the story that you're telling us is completely
Yeah,
right.
Bem, I'm not saying that. I did not say that he achieved full enlightenment as in Buddhahood, but I was saying that he completed tattva accomplishments. That's what I was saying.
I
Would you
see.
agree on this point?
Uh, to be frank, I don't remember exactly. Was it the final accomplishment as a bodhisattva? But you need to. It's necessary to understand that when we say about the final accomplishment of bodhisattva, it means perfect Buddhahood.
Okay,
There
okay,
is no another
okay.
final accomplishment. This is
Understood.
the
Okay,
final accomplishment.
he accomplished some level of enlightenment, maybe.
Yes, that's possible. That's possible.
Okay, and was he a bhikshu in that lifetime or not? Even in
He
according
was
to
a
the Pali
prince.
and Sanskrit. Yeah. Okay.
According to the Sanskrit tradition, he was a prince, and usually prince cannot be a monk. I mean, it was not the custom. But
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, he was a lay person, and like there is a story that three brothers, Buddha and his two brothers, were traveling in the forest and etc. etc. So he was not a monk at that time.
Right. Thank you, Bem. Ajahn Giuliano, I think you have a lot to compliment on these and maybe refute or disagree on these points. Please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Ben. Actually, it was the Milindapanya that says that one should ordain that very day, otherwise will enter the parinibbana. So it is basically, so in a way one should leave the house. So it's like this level of nekama, this renunciation is paramount in order to reach awakening. I would point out that the sotapanna is the sotapatti, so becoming a sotapanna. So the sotapatti level is the stream entry is the standard goal. But there are cases where somebody may become an anagamin. I don't know if that reference to Amatapadam, I remember it was a little controversial actually, because there were some problems about that. But however, and I think it was, I'm not sure, but I think it was in the Anguttara Nikaya. But in the Majjhima Nikaya, there is one case, but it's still one becomes an anagamin and no returner. So that just means that that being is going to become an arahant, but in the next life, not coming back to this world anymore. So no return in this sense. So it's like in this very lifetime, I insist, I can be refuted, of course, I accept that, but I don't remember explicit cases when one lay person becomes an arahant and doesn't have to ordain like the Milindapanya states there. And I think I would be a little surprised because also the Milindapanya is quite encyclopedic in terms of knowledge of the Tipitaka as a whole. I would say, especially the Sutta Pitaka and the Abhidhamma Pitaka. In the Pali Milindapanya, we have a very good assessment of all the sources. So I would be a little surprised. But I remember the case mentioned by Bibek, but I think there were some reasons. I should see the text again, but I think there are some reasons why that should be a little controversial indeed. I think the one objection was that it means that having a taste of the Amatapadam, of the state of deathlessness, namely Nibbana. I think it was like reaching a taste of that. So it's possible to taste Nibbana, but not to enter completely Nibbana and become an arahant in this lifetime as a lay person. Or if one manages to do so, should ordain as soon as possible. Otherwise, has to enter parinibbana. That is actually, it's not mutually excluded, because if he says that people even completely reached the nibbana, I don't think that the story says whether they died or not.
Right. Okay. Thank you, John Giuliano. I recall a few other instances, which I have, of course, personal questions, and it might be also referred to here. One is that if you remember the story about Mahashariputra and Mahamoggallana, when Mahashariputra met one of the Buddha's disciple before he became ordained, before he met the Buddha, and he heard the words "Ye Dharma hetu prabhava hetun teshan tathagato hayavadatte shancha yo niroda evam vadi maha shramannaha swaha." This one, right? When he heard this, sorry, without the swaha. When he heard this, they became realized or enlightened. I mean, what I read in some books that they became realized, or some books I don't
That
know.
should be the opening of the Dhammachakku.
What does that mean, Ajahn Giuliano?
Dhammachaku is the realization that Yam Kinchi, Samudaya Dhamma, Sabbatam, Nirodha Dhamma, whatever has the nature of arising, all that has the nature of ceasing, of passing away. So the deep, of course, realization of that, not just the intellectual understanding of that is a complete transformation. But it should correspond to the Sotapatti level. So one as the Dhammachaku open, as this deep knowledge, this deep kind of awakening. That's a level of awakening, but it's not arahanthood.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
It's also the level of Anya Kondanya, no, at the Benares, at the teaching of the Four Noble Truths. No, that's what happened to Anya Kondanya. He opened the Dhammachaku and he said that Yankinchi Samudaya Dhamma, Sabbatam, Nirodha Dhamma.
Oh, okay. So I mean, in some books or in some series, Buddha series, they show that Anya Gotanya and became enlightened. Was that instance you're referring to?
Not on that occasion.
Okay.
Later on, he became awakened, but not on that occasion.
Was it with presence of the Buddha, or was he by himself, or with other people?
When he became enlightened?
Yes.
I think it was by himself, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. But
Okay.
that point in Benares there, that this is a realization was that of the Dhammachaku with this
Okay.
level.
And
it actually means that once one becomes a Sotapanna, doesn't mean that the story is finished there. So one can still progress. Doesn't mean that you have fixed the 7 lifetimes. You may actually abridge that. You can actually shorten your time ahead, and you can become awakened in this very lifetime. Of course, he had left the house, so we are not talking about a lay person in the case of Anya Kondanya.
Right. But I don't think many bhikshu vows were taken or were even available back then. Am I wrong on this?
But you had to be a paribhajaka, however, in the sense that you had to leave the house.
Okay.
So that's the main condition, to leave the house. So because the fetters are strictly linked to the home life, to the lay life. So one has to leave that. That allows to this bigger renunciation that is a requirement for.
Yes. So then there comes a question about, for example, celibacy. I mean, is celibacy needed, or was it more like a mental celibacy, mental renunciation, like a mind becomes free rather than actual full bhikshu with several hundred vows, etc.? That's the question I have.
Yeah, I think our friends talker here can say more about that, but in this sense the Sutta Pitaka is not very encouraging. So celibacy has to be followed. Actually, there is even a case when Sariputta, who had progressed, of course, so he had no problem with this practice. He also became an arahant. I don't remember if it actually was before or when he was already an arahant, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was already an arahant. But no, actually, no, I would be surprised actually, because he and I think it was before, because he went back to his wife, and there is this statement about the Buddha that it was much better if his sexual organ was bitten by a snake. So I think that there is quite the instructions are quite drastic in this sense. So if one is in the bhikkhu sangha, that person has to follow the brahmacharya. The brahmacharya is not only mental, so it is Brahma stands for setta, that means excellent, superior.
Yes,
It's not Brahma in the sense. It's also in the way we say divine
that's clear.
Normal, no, in a normal. But it's not only that. So this living a divine conduct in a way is also a matter of celibacy. So
I understand in the Bhikshu Sangha, but like Venerable Gotanya, I don't know if he was in the Bhikshu Sangha or not. That's maybe you can clarify if you know about this.
It was nevertheless actually even in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta they were called bhikkhus.
Okay.
Although they were paribhajakas, they were not actual bhikkhus, but the term used there is bhikkhus. So in a way, they were the first disciples. Whether there was a number of people, a necessary number of people for the upasampada or preceptors and so on, I think that could be overruled because they became the disciples of the Buddha directly. So that there was no need for that. There was even a Vinaya rule for that at that time.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn Giuliano. Bem, you have, yes?
Oh, it's interesting. It's quite interesting because in Tibetan, in the Mahayana tradition, in the Sanskrit tradition, they say that there are two rituals to become a monk. First is the ritual of the previous times, and the second is the modern, so to say, ritual. Modern ritual is quite complicated. You need preceptor, you need abbot, you need like witnesses. So at least 4 people, you need at least 4 bhikshus in order to become a monk. But during the Buddhist,
I would object actually to have 4 bhikshus to become a monk. Those bhikshus had to become monks. So how do you have 4 bhikshus when you have 0 bhikshus? So mathematically, there is a
no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you want to receive bhikshus vows, you need 4 bhikshus at least.
Yeah, but I think that was a later rule.
Yeah, that's later rule.
Yeah.
But in the Mahayana Vinaya, it is said that during the Buddha's time, it was much easier. Buddha would give bhikshus vows only by saying, "Come to me," and the person who was receiving the vows would just come near to the Buddha, and his hair or her hair would automatically, I mean, like naturally be shaven, I mean just fall down, and this person would become a bhikshu. That's what's said in the Sanskrit Vinaya, and it's even funnier, it's even more interesting. What do you think? Was the Buddha Shakyamuni a bhikshu or not?
Good question.
If you say yes, from whom or from what he received his vows? If you say no, so how he was able to give something that he didn't have?
Or how could he be enlightened? That's also a question,
No,
right?
it's different question now.
Yeah, but
What
it's a consequence.
it's very interesting because in the Mahayana tradition they say that he obtained those vows in front of a stupa. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, it was called something like the pure one, Chorten Namda in Tibetan. So it means something like pure one. And he just renounced the world in front of that stupa, and he cut his hair, and so he became, by the power of the aspirations of the previous lives and etc., he became Buddha in front of that stupa. And later, when he was giving the vows, he gave them simply by saying to the person to come near him. And it is also says in the Vinaya text that there are different ways to become a monk. For example, during the Buddhist time, it was possible to be done by the message. So what it means, you just send a message by person or by a letter, and the person who receives it, I mean, only from the Buddha, not from anybody else. And the person who received the letter, when he reads the lines that you become a monk, he becomes a monk. So they say that the ritual of becoming a monk during the Buddhist time was quite different. It was much more much easier. And during the later time, you needed at least 4 bhikkhus in order to receive the vows.
That's some good insights and interesting information. Maybe Ajahn Vivek, you have something to say about this?
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. And then I also read something like Buddha had received those things spontaneously as soon as he wished to renounce, and then there onwards he had this vow. But I would like to point out to the fact that on this point, we I feel there are different opinions. About the enlightenment of lay practitioners. There are different opinions according to different schools, and then the interpretations depend on different ways of interpreting the emphasis of certain school. For example, from the Mahayana point of view, let's say I'm just using the word Mahayana here. Different parts have different emphasis. For example, Sravakayana like Theravada emphasizes on renunciation to obtain the final fruit, and that's why there is a very heavy emphasis on the ordination and the sila and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that other Mahayana traditions do not follow any kind of rules and any kind of vows and restrictions. I'm not saying that, but the fact that they offer certain, you can say, method or system of meditation that would not need that much of isolation, physical isolation, and that would not need that kind of strict renunciations. No. So that's why this idea that one has to be really ordained, as far as I know, is heavily emphasized in the Sravakayana tradition. But in the Mahayana tradition, this is not that emphasized, because there are ways to transform the kleshas or the afflictions. There are ways to use the antidotes. There are ways to use the transform the things in such a way that it is possible for not an ordained member to obtain the highest fruit. Now, Bem had mentioned about the 84 Mahasiddhas. I'm talking in line with this kind of tradition in the Mahayana. And then as far as I know, Tibetan tradition, I'm using the word Tibetan, but as a representative of Vajrayana tradition or Mantrayana tradition. So Tibetan tradition has this very strong lay transmission, and they say that it is carried on from the time of the Buddha. They are called Nakpas. Of course, they have their own vows and systems, but it is a completely a lay movement. And then there had been many good, very highly realized masters in that tradition. So I think it is basically also about how a system or a method or a path allows to transform your afflictions, and how you remove the ignorance and so on and so forth. So here I just wanted to mention this to add to the discussion.
Yes, thank you. I wonder if in the Pali Canon, if there are any references to Vimalakirti. Do you know of any?
You mean like from
You are,
Vimalakirti Nirdesha Sutra?
Yes,
Okay,
or
you,
about his character or
okay.
his personality in the history. Well, I guess not. Okay, yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good. I think Ajahn Giuliano, maybe you have some insights on on the suttas that you said you might need to check. I think if you could share, or maybe you just have to show us more detail. I think we are very interested, to get deeper, since Vivek and yourself mentioned about a particular Pali Canon suttas, and I think, I mean, I myself would be interested in reading more and maybe checking out different interpretations. But what's your personal view on this? And I believe that you are also a practitioner. How are you taking this?
Well, first of all, I think that to complete the answer about the role, so how in a way lay life and also sexual life could be an impediment to arahanthood, to reach the final awakening and liberation. There is a case when Arita, remember that Arita is one of those who actually had say it's a Moga Purisa, no, it's the stupid person that expresses the foolish ideas there. And the foolish idea is that actually sexual intercourse wouldn't be an impediment to the higher levels, and meaning higher levels in many in a broader actually acceptation. So doesn't talk only about arahanthood. So he says that actually they are not an obstacle, and one can be a lay person and indulge in sexual life, and is named as a stupid person for thinking so. So the Buddha summons him in order to actually to blame him, to criticize him, and to explain that he was completely wrong. So I will say again that the main narrative is that of and the instructions themselves speak in sense of seeing the lay life as good for practice, because we have many cases. For instance, in the Kandaraka Sutta, in the Majjhima Nikaya, and there are lay people who say that okay, we kalena kalam, no, every once in a while we practice the satipatthanas. So the I would say the specific meditative techniques taught by the Buddha were addressed to the were delivered to the lay people as well. Nevertheless, I think that there is this condition. So for the final goal, still the lay life is an impediment. And I remember, if I remember correctly, what Bibek was talking about was a long list. Maybe during our conversation I will find it. I had a look at my glossary, but actually I didn't find easily. I need to remember a key word that can help me find that. Remember, it was a long list of people. There were all the names of those who reached this amata level. But I still think that and there was a debate. I think that there was an article, maybe by Bhikkhu Bodhi, but I'm not 100% sure, who explained that actually this is a taste of awakening and not necessarily the ultimate goal. So it doesn't mean that they were completely enlightened. So yeah, I'm still of that position. Of course, I'm just relying upon my memory here now, and so I may make a mistake. But I think that only case. Also, when we see only one case, of course, doesn't mean that it is, I would say, to be neglected or discarded. But I would say that the overall picture that we gather from the Pali Canon is quite precise. If there is something that says something different, maybe we'll need a closer look, a better interpretation. So we need to see in that case why that's not a contradiction. And we cannot just take that, okay, the Buddha here says that thing like we discussed that, for instance, about the Kalama Sutta. No, we cannot say we cannot use the Kalama Sutta to throw away all the rest of the canon, saying that okay, here I just had to rely on myself. I don't care about the Buddha by anyone. No, and that's sometimes how it is used. So, by the same token, I think that we cannot take one sutta when just the word amata appears without understanding, by the help of the commentaries and so on, what that reaching of amata literally and deeply and really means.
Yes, thank you, Ajahn Giuliano. Please don't take it as an attack. So I'm wondering, especially
you know, Ram, that you can even attack me. I would be.
you would be amata.
I accept an attack from you, not from Bibek, but from you. I accept it.
Okay, I wonder, like, for example, there are some restrictions, for about getting ordained. Some people cannot become bhikshu. They cannot even get. I'm not even sure if they can even become a novice. Maybe they can, but they cannot become a they cannot become a full bhikshu due to some physical limitations. I mean, how would those people go about practicing? Ajahn Giuliano, maybe you can share some insights into that.
In the sense, how I would explain that? You mean?
I mean, how would that person become enlightened? Is it the same case that it will not be that lifetime? The next lifetime they have to become bhikshu, or
I think so. We are the four of us here. We are lay people, and we have in a way this condition. And I would say I wouldn't feel as a lay person, not to mention as a Epabhajika and so on, or cases when one actually wants to ordain. But and I do understand that the need, that spiritual quest that drives a person towards the full ordination is very, very respectable. That's a path. But I wouldn't think that. So after saying that the final goal actually is stated in one lifetime for the bhikkhus, on the other hand, I would say that talking on the premise of what I said before, that one has only at the longest 7 lifetimes, but could even be just one. No, can become an anagamin. But let's put aside the anagamin and just think of the Sotapanna. 7 lifetimes. I think that as practitioners, having a little bit of a patience, I think, is a benefit. It's not bad. No, so in a way that after endless samsara, being in the path, having the path set towards liberation, and be even helpful to others to reach liberation this way. There's nothing. I think that there's nothing to be. So if one cannot fully ordain, okay, of course I would be sorry for reasons, and I don't criticize those who question the rules. No. We know that there is the long debate about, for instance, the bhikkhunis and so on. So I would say the one who needs and wants the full ordination, I think, this is a legitimate need. So I don't want to enter all the entanglement of rules, which is not even my personal expertise. But I would say that in terms of the path, it's not that bad news. Doesn't mean that one is completely excluded. It's not that you are not in the path. You are not lost. So you become a Sotapanna. I think is maybe one of the most beautiful thing that I would wish for a person. No, become a Sotapanna. You haven't failed at all. You have succeeded.
Yes.
What a beautiful way to conduct a lifetime, right. To become to open the Dhammachakkhu, to see the reality of things, and become a Sotapanna.
Excellent. Yes, why not? Ajahn Bibek have something to say.
And don't attack me with that.
Please don't attack Ajahn Giuliano.
He doesn't know that. I'm sensitive to that.
I will not attack him, but I will examine further a little bit.
Of course.
So, okay, what it means to be enlightened, okay, fully enlightened, at least from the Buddhist point of view, it means you have to remove the three, especially three poisons completely, and you should be knowing that they will not arise again. So there is no way someone can attain a complete enlightenment as far as that person even has a trace of klista agyana, what we call the afflictive one in the mind stream. So nobody in any of the traditions within Buddhism can get enlightened, at least the basic enlightenment, and then arhathood without removing all these things from the mind stream. So, um, uh, like the emphasis on the sila or the ordination should be to the extent that one guards your mind, or you isolate yourself from indulging into this kind of afflictions. So that should be the case. But technically speaking, it is a mental thing. It is not about you take a certain vow, you have certain robes, and then you are surely going to enlighten. That is not the case. Like, for example, even an ordained person sitting in one of the remotest place in this world can have all sorts of afflictions in the mind, and can indulge himself or herself with this kind of afflictions. So the point here is whether you need to take that kind of vow uh, as an external, let's say, external support base to attain the final nirvana. I don't think so. From that point of view, it could be perhaps true that very few will attain it, but I think they can still attain it because it's a mental attitude, nothing to do with ordination, nothing to do with any other external circumstances. So I think a person living even a household life can attain the highest fruit, provided that person has the right attitude towards the path, provided he or she practices it in the proper way, he gets the proper instructions, and so on and so forth. So uh, I'm telling you this from well, even from the, let's say, about that Anguttara Nikaya 1 case, where it is mentioned that there are 21 householders who attained the Amrita Pada. It is contested. For example, Vikubodhi, I think you just mentioned, Achan Giuliano mentioned that it's Vikubodhi. I think Gombrich, Professor Gombrich also has contested this, and many other people in the Theravada tradition. But that is the impression one gets from that tradition, because there is a heavy emphasis on the point of renunciation. The point is that unless you renounce it, uh, and even that is more physical, then you are going to attain it. That's the kind of impression you get from the whole interpretation. But technically speaking, that is not required, in my opinion, because it's a mental thing, as I just explained. And from there's an opening where we can see that there could be other possibilities and other path systems where ordination is strictly not the criterion to obtain the full enlightenment. And that's
Okay.
what I just want to add it, but I'm not attacking Ajahn Julian.
Thank you, Ajahn Bibek. I think, Bem, you have lots to say on this, as you have heard these two uh, wonderful speakers.
Well, not exactly a lot, but I would like to add. I do agree with Vivek because I'm sorry, but I'm talking only about the Sanskrit Vinaya because I do not have knowledge of the Pali Vinaya. But in Sanskrit Vinaya, it is said that to some of the monks, Buddha allowed beautiful houses and beautiful monk robes made of silk and etc. because they didn't have attachment to it. And to some of the monks, he would deny such an opportunity because they had attachment to the things. So basically, I agree with Vivek, because this is attitude. This is your mind attitude. If you do not have any attachment, there is no difference for you. But if you have this attachment, then you need to work with it. You need to have somehow to try to win I mean, try to get rid of the attachment to the material things and etc. And while talking about attachment, it includes all of the objects of the attachment. For example, like attachment to your spouse, or to your family, etc. So basically, in Mahayana tradition, what they say is that you can become an enlightened even as a lay person, as long as you practice properly, and as long as your effort is amount of the effort is as great as it is necessary to become an enlightened person.
Maybe
Yes.
I will add a small thing here. For example, let me give you an example of different types of path systems and different upayas to attain the enlightenment. For example, in the Sutra traditions, at least in the Theravada tradition, if you have to attain the Buddhahood, for example, and it is emphasized that one has to be a human being and then male and so on and so forth. Now, this position is reversed in the Vajrayana, what we call the branch of Mahayana, where it is said that being a female is easier to attain the enlightenment than a male. This is reverse this position. Because why? Because of the emphasis, because of the method of the practice, how the kleshas are dealt with, and how it is transformed. So I agree that there are ranges of emphasis in Buddhist traditions, and in the Theravada tradition, mostly I find that there is an emphasis on a very external isolation, like bodily isolation, and then mental isolation. There is a kind of emphasis there. So that's why it is often said that you need to take a vow, and then you have to be ordained, and so on and so forth. That should be the case. Yeah, that is the one thing I wanted to add.
Thank you, Ajahn Vibek and Ajahn Bem. Yes, Ajahn Bem.
I'm sorry, and just a remark. That's just a small remark. If we take, for example, Buddha Shakyamuni, so as far as I understand, we agreed that he became a bhikshu in front of stupa because of the previous lives or aspirations or whatever it is. So do we agree that he became he became a bhikshu? So if we
You
agree that he became a bhikshu, what was the reason for him to become a bhikshu? Was his unattachment, lack of attachment, previous to the becoming of the bhikshu or not? Was it the reason to become a bhikshu or not? If it was the reason to become a bhikshu, it means that he had the cause, the basis to become a bhikshu before he became bhikshu. So basically, what I want to say, nothing changed much in his character, in his mind, even when he became bhikshu, because he had this kind of unattachment, lack of attachment in his mind, even before he became bhikshu. Because the reason must go before the fruit, and because he didn't have this attachment, because he lacked that attachment, it became the basis for him to become a monk. So it seems to me that probably it can work even before. I mean, like it's not strictly necessary to become a monk in order to be non-attached to something.
I think it's a very good point to contemplate on. Yes, that's a very interesting and beautiful point you have mentioned. I mean, if there's no reason, then you actually cannot become a bhikshu. For example, those with some physical disability or certain other factors. Yes, Ajahn Bibek.
Yeah, there is one story very famous in Jain tradition that two monks were
Zen?
walking Zen or
Yes.
Chan tradition in Chinese tradition. That there were two monks walking somewhere. They were going somewhere, and then they come across one river. And there was one woman too who was trying to cross that river. And then one of the monks, he lifts that woman. There was some kind of some reason why he did that, and then he helps her to go to another shore. Then the another monk was very upset because he touched a woman and so on and so forth, which a monk should not be doing. Then when they reached the monastery, another monk was sulking, and then he was not talking to the monk who lifted the women. And then he asks, like, why did you do that? You should not be doing such things. And then another monk says, the monk who lifted, he says, I left the woman right there on the bank of the river, but you are still carrying it. You know it. So this is the attitude I was talking about. That whether you have generated or you are capable of doing this determines whether or not you attain enlightenment, not because you are ordained. Of course, I think in the past when you were ordained, you could have more time, you could have more, you could devote more, focus more. But nowadays the circumstances have changed. I think some of the monks are even more engaged because they are asked to perform certain things and they have to deal with certain other things. So I'm indicating towards a mental attitude once again, that it is about the mental attitude and not about the physical circumstances or taking certain vows that that would that would kind of play as a jumping pad necessarily to attain the final and complete enlightenment. That's what I think.
I think that's what we have discussed is, I think, more from historical and theoretical point of view, and we have our own views, of course. But I think, would we agree that the more important is to have, regardless whether it's full bhikshu or lay, the essence is more on the uh, to forego ego clinging, or to forego attachment, desire. This should be the main basis before deriving into bhikshu, non-bhikshu, renounce, householder, mahasiddhas, and other things, right? Would you agree on this ground first?
Is it to me or to whom?
To
To
everyone.
everybody. Oh, okay, sorry. May I say a little bit?
Yes, please.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree almost completely, in the sense that the Bhikkhu Sangha has not been established just in case, just for a particular time and so on. I think that it is true that traditionally, it's a matter of fetters and poisons, defilements, kilesas. So that we have the samyojanas, and we have the cutting off of 3, 5, or all 10, the 10 samyojanas, and the reduction, the gradual reduction of the kilesas, and then the complete destruction of kilesas or asavas. Poisons and so on. So defilements and poisons are completely abandoned. So this is the main thing. On the other hand, we should see that the Bhikkhu Sangha is instrumental in that sense. So it is useful to that. I think, okay, the sutta that we mentioned before, I think it was from the Anguttara Nikaya, but Bibek also mentioned one from the Majjhima Nikaya, which should be the Maha Vacchagotta Sutta, 73 of the Majjhima Nikaya. Well, actually, there is a level, in a way, the Buddha talks about the fourfold, the Sangha as a whole, that may actually reach the higher stages. But there's no explicit part about the final arahanthood. So this, again, this doesn't mean that people are excluded. Nobody's excluded, but that the purification of the mind, in a way, is allowed with a particular condition. Of course, that's the priority, the purification of the mind. But if the Buddha set practices like the Satipatthanas, whatever, no, the Anicca and so on, in order to let disciples cultivate the purification of the mind, I think that these instruments are important. Of course, they are the raft; they are not the goal, but the raft is still necessary. So I think that we shouldn't just say, "Okay, I don't need a raft," because today we have jets, we have airplanes, we have anything. Well, in a way, we are talking about a path that is still worked, is still practiced in the way the Buddha taught. Otherwise, we are talking about something new that we are reinventing, and I will be very, very careful about that. Because if we say, okay, now in nowadays we don't need a bhikkhu sangha because we have all the conditions. I have a beautiful room where I can practice the whole time and so on. Well, if the Buddha set a bhikkhu sangha, maybe it's because he knows that in this beautiful room, maybe I can spend time sending messages on WhatsApp to someone. Of course, that's what also in the bhikkhu sangha do. But the condition there is set in order to help a higher level of renunciation, and I think we shouldn't neglect that. This said, of course, it's a matter of purification of the mind. I'm not a monk myself, so I know that there is a path for lay people. And this sutta here, the Mahavacchakata Sutta, the Buddha insists all the time that my disciples, my lay disciples, even those who indulge in sexual pleasures, reach very high levels. But that final step is not for them. And there is no point, I can be refuted, of course, but I didn't find any point when actually the final step is explicitly ascribed to lay people. So this is in my opinion. I would also like to add, since Bibek asked, sorry, you Ram asked me about Anya Kondanya. Yes, I checked, and of course it was quite famous. He became an arahant after the Anattalakkhana Sutta, so after the teaching on the selflessness. So he became a Sotapanna during the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta in Benares, and then 5 days later he became an arahant after listening to the teaching on selflessness.
In Buddha's presence, right?
In Buddha's, sorry, it was in Buddha's presence. Yes.
Okay, so
immediately after the talk.
Okay, so the declaration was like, okay, you are a bhikkhu, and then listen to me, and then and then suddenly he became enlightened.
Yeah, of course, there is a lot to say about all these almost spontaneous cases of enlightenment after speech, because of course there is a preparation before. So
right.
the things now practice and listening work together. Listening is a form of practice, and there are, of course, deep, profound insights, but in a way they are matured through the actual practice of contemplation and so on. So we are talking about the five Pabbajikas who have been practicing for years, and maybe for according to the scriptures, for many lifetimes before.
Right. So my question to you, again, not an attack, is that is one still a bhikshu once one passes away, once the body has died and the consciousness has left the body? That moment, what does the term bhikkhu carry anything? Does it mean anything, or it can even be an attachment or not? That's my direct questions to you, in your view, of course.
But you're talking about are you talking about
a bhikkhu a dead bhikkhu, right? At the moment he's dead, that moment, is he still a bhikkhu? The consciousness, is that a consciousness of a bhikkhu consciousness?
You're talking about someone who is not liberated and and dies,
Yes.
because otherwise it would be in parinibbana and everything would be
Yes.
sorted out that way. No, I don't think that there is a level. It's a kamic seed. No, it's a seed of the
Okay.
karma. So basically,
Okay.
having been a bhikkhu, of course, poses no a kind of I would say platform where one may restart the path again in the next lifetime. So it's like it's a point of advantage, of course, having been a bhikkhu. If he practices as a bhikkhu, because of course one could be. I don't think that they would be so helpful for Devadatta, for instance. No? So it doesn't mean that one necessarily is a beautiful person or a very good practitioner just for being a bhikkhu, but has been in a condition that help you practice. So if you practice according to the teachings of the Buddha in that condition as a bhikkhu, and mostly by himself, because being a bhikkhu doesn't mean bhikkhu sangha doesn't mean necessarily a monastery where people had to live together all the time. And being a bhikkhu also means being in viveka, isolation. No, the Buddha recommended spending time alone. So we don't have to think of bhikkhus. Of course, we are talking about. Yeah, I am the only European person here, so I'm talking about Asian people who are familiar with the Buddhist monks. But nevertheless, I think that we all have an idea of a monastic life as a life of community. But what we have in the Tipitaka, and especially in the Sutta Pitaka, actually is a continuous emphasis on loneliness, aloneness. Sorry, seclusion.
Right. Right.
No
Okay. So
loneliness. You
I
have
think I found a shortcut here. Maybe when I'm really old, like a week before I die, I become a bhikkhu. Then I have only 6 lifetimes to go. So so I don't
No,
have to
no,
get.
it's not so mechanical, of course. You don't become a bhikkhu and then you have the Sotapanna license. It's not
Okay.
that. It's not that. You
Yes.
can
Yes.
become you can become a Sotapanna as a layperson, Ram, no?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Especially by conducting these sattva meetings. That's
Right.
that's a requirement. That's a prerequisite to become a Sotapanna.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn Giuliano. I think Ajahn Vivek and Ajahn Bem, you have something to say. Who would like to go first?
I want to clarify your question. What did you ask? So you said when a bhikshu dies. So what further? I mean, what did you want to know?
Did his mind state is still a bhikshu mind state, or like
Oh,
this is a bhikshu consciousness?
that's what was discussed a lot in the Tibetan tradition, in the Sanskrit tradition. When a person dies, does it have? I mean, this person doesn't have the monk vows. Is this the question? Yes. First of all, it's very interesting, and I would like to know the opinion, and would like to ask the question to uh, um, uh, to the participants, because in Tibetan tradition there are two ideas or two conceptions about the vows. What the nature of vow? If you talk about the vows, you need to know what vow is. Is it mind? Is it your attitude to yourself and to the external life, or is it some kind of form that you obtain when you receive the vows? And depending on these answers, on these questions, depending on the answers you give, you will get two different answers. First, secondly, in the Sanskrit tradition, I'm so sorry to be talking only about the Sanskrit tradition, but that's the only thing I know. In the Sanskrit tradition, monks say, "Jisi tsoi bardo." When you receive the vows, you say, "I receive the vows until I am alive," and it means only this life. So it means that automatically, I mean naturally, when you die, you are free of those vows. Why? Because you were taking them only until you are alive. And there are some exceptions. For example, if you die But in the next life, you remember the previous life. Still, you have to take the vows for the vows to be complete. But it's a bit different because you remember your previous life. But if you do not remember your life, of course, you need to take them anew. You need to get them again because you do not remember anything at all. And it's very interesting about the nature of life of the vows, because in the Abhidharma Kosha it is said that those are some sort of form. So it's avigyapti rupa. It's some kind of rupa. It's some kind of form that is imperceptible to our common senses, but still it's some kind of form, and it means that when you live this life, you live all of the forms, perceptible, not perceptible, all of the forms, and only your consciousness travels to the next life. It means that automatically, again, besides of the promise, besides of the vow, you cannot take anything material, any rupa with you. So you will have to leave it behind.
Thank you, Achan Bem. Achan Bibek?
Yes. Yes, that is especially discussed in the first chapter of Abhidharma Kosha. So it is a kind of when you take a vow, then a kind of a abhigyapti rupa, a form that continues with your mind stream until either you break it or you die, because when you die you have to leave your all the forms here among the skandhas, and only the other skandhas that is called mind travels, right? That is the one thing. Now coming back to one point about the usefulness or purpose of the Vikshu Sangha, as far as I remember, the commentary on the 25,000 Pragya Paramita Sutra, as written by Nagarjuna and as extant in Chinese, it is the commentary is called Tasatulu, Mahapragya Paramita Sastra. And the reason there it is given like why bodhisattvas are not visible, or why bodhisattvas or lay practitioners are not in front, why it is often the case that monks and are the parts of the Buddha's parisa. And it is often said that 1,250 monks surrounded Buddha whenever he went. Monks surrounded him, and they were in the forefront. And the Buddha said, and the explanation they are given. I'm just giving one explanation. There could be several others according to the tradition. As far as I remember, the explanation is giving is that they due to the different vows and the way their demeanor and the behavior, they are the showcases. You show to the people that Sakyaputra could be this exemplar. You know. Now I will connect this point, the ordination and so on and so forth is kind of external. I would like to well, I don't know whether I would remember it correctly, but in the Theravada Abhidhamma tradition, there is a explanation how different types of kleshas, afflictions, are countered, and what counters what, you know. And it is said that the when you in the level of mind, when the klesha starts to kind of appear, then these are called paryuthana. So it is about to come, and that is dealt with the sila. That is the reason why we have vows, we have things, right? So it is still something that has started to come outside from your mind. And then sorry, the one that comes out of your body and the speech, that is dealt with the sila and different types of vows, so that you don't allow it to spill over to the world and external. Then the one that starts to appear in the level of your mind, which is now uh, quite subtle level of afflictions, then you deal this with the samadhi, the practices of different dhyanas. so that you suppress the pancha nivarana, the 5 types of nivaranas that is explained, right? But it does not mean that your mind is completely you have eradicated the afflictions from your mind. What deals with this latent kind of afflictions? It is dealt with the vipassana. So here we see a connection between the enlightenment and the afflictions and the usefulness of different types of silas and vows. So silas and vows, even in the Theravada tradition, as far as I remember, is meant to be just a kind of, you are guarding them not to flow, but it is not exclusively to eradicate them, right? And then what eradicates is the exercise of panya, or like different types of dharma pravichaya or vipassana, in a normal parlance, what we call. So here we can see how how the vows and well, even the simple precepts or vows work in the Theravada system of path and the Theravada system of enlightenment. So I think what I was saying is not completely out of bound of how it is explained in the Theravada tradition, but I think it is in line with the Theravada tradition. But of course, as I have uh, said it several times, that being a one of the Sravakana tradition, and somehow the line of transmissions that it has, and the interpretive tradition, it emphasizes heavily on the ordination and isolation and so on and so forth. So from that point of view, I do agree. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn Bibek. Yes, Ajahn Bem.
And I just wanted to try to make a little bit of a logical construction. So if we take two examples, layperson and monk, and if they have equal abilities and equal nature to become enlightened. For example, if you take a monk, if you take a layperson, so they have the same potential to become an enlightened person. Otherwise, it would not be possible for them to become an enlightened person. Is it right?
I would agree, yes.
So let's imagine that these two persons are equal in their effort, perseverance to become an arahant, and they practice a lot and spend the same amount of time practicing, and they are like equally successful in their practice. So it means that it must mean logically that even without vows, vows are not that important in obtaining enlightenment. Otherwise, person who doesn't practice but has vows would automatically obtain the arahanthood, the enlightenment. But it doesn't happen because there are a lot of people who have vows, but they do not automatically or naturally become enlightened. Now, if you could say that in order to become enlightened, you need all of the causes, all of the like gathering of the causes and the vows too. But it's also not the case because we remember the cases when lay arahants obtained, being lay, being non-monks, obtained the state of the enlightened. I mean, what I'm trying to say, that basically I do believe that like it is said in the Mahayana tradition. So probably vows are quite important, but they are not the main cause of the enlightenment. I mean like that. Of course, in the Mahayana sutras, it is said that Sangha is the basis or root of the Buddha teaching. In a place where there is no Sangha, the Buddha teaching with the Buddha Dharma has not put forward its roots. So basically, it's not established in the place. And Sangha is very, very important, especially in order to preserve, to keep the Buddhist teaching. But it seems to me that lay people, just thinking logically, lay people and ordained people have the same possibility, the same opportunity to obtain enlightenment in case they put the needed amount of effort into the practice.
I think you mentioned about vows, right? I think you refer to bhikshu vow because to achieve full enlightenment, you need some sort of bodhisattva vows, which carry over lifetimes and etc. Please let me know if I'm mistaken on this.
Well, if we talk from the Mahayana tradition, then yes, you need to take you need to take bodhisattva vows. But that's also interesting. That the continuation of the question about what are the vows? Are they mind or are they matter? Because when you take a Mahayana vow, those who practice Mahayana probably know this very well. When you take a bodhisattva vow, what you say? You say, I take those vows until I obtain complete enlightenment. So what does it mean? It means not only this life, it means until you become enlightened. And it may happen like it may take very long time. It means that those vows should travel with you to the next lives. Otherwise, it's no use. If you don't remember in the next life or don't have those vows in the next life, how they will become the cause for the enlightenment? That's why some of the scholars, not all of them, but some of the scholars say that bodhisattva vows are in nature, our mind, some kind of consciousness, some kind of attitude, what you remember, and those vows are taken to the enlightenment. But of course, there are many questions. I will not talk about this in detail because it's quite boring. Because if you don't remember the next life about the previous vows, you have to take them in you, and etc. and etc. But I wanted just a bit, just a second. I will take a second. I wanted to add to what Vivek said about the tantric practice and obtaining enlightenment from the tantric point of view, and for being the tantric practice and obtaining of the Buddha state or Buddhahood for ladies like easier. Actually, it's necessary to say that in Mahayana tradition, in the Tantric tradition, there are a lot of examples when a female person would attain Buddhahood. I mean, complete enlightenment. For example, there is Niguma's history of Naropa, there is Sukhasiddhi, there is also Bhikshuni. What I'm saying, a female nun, Bhikshuni, Lakshmi, and etc. So in Tantric tradition, in Mahayana Tantric tradition, it is supposed that everybody can obtain enlightenment, lay people and monks, females and males. But I will continue and I will say that if you study tantric tradition, especially Anuttara Yoga Tantra, or the old term, I'm using the old Sanskrit term. Some people say that it's wrong. It doesn't appear in the Sanskrit text. But anyway, in those texts, it is said that if you do not enter the union with the female figure, I mean, intercourse, there is no method to become enlightened. I mean, like it's quite extended, different point of view, but still, for some people, it's also in the Buddhist frame. So I just wanted to mention that. So in some tantric texts, Buddhist tantric texts, it is said that without this kind of state of union, without this union with the female figure, you cannot obtain enlightenment.
Okay, thank you, Bem. We will not go into too much details, but I have one. Actually, there might be a few cases of a bodhisattva in the Theravada tradition. Ajahn Giuliano, you can confirm this. We have to end this soon. We are running out of time. So there are cases of bodhisattvas. Are there cases of bodhisattvas or in the Theravada tradition, like Kubasi, Vishai, or if I'm not mistaken, can you confirm this point?
You mean in more recent Theravada tradition? You mean?
Oh yes.
Okay. Yeah, there are cases actually where apparently even in the Theravada tradition there are those who take the bodhisattva vows. Yeah, I heard of several of them. Yes, I don't know actually. I didn't investigate the reasons behind that, but yeah, apparently there are. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
I say one very short thing? Actually, I found that the I would say the the key text that Bibek was talking about. And I think that there is an interesting point, if I may share just 1 minute. The sutta is a list of suttas from the Tapussa Sutta on in the Anguttara Nikaya, as I said, where there is a list of those who see Amata. Each lay person becomes Amata Daso, one who sees the Amata, or it says also Amatam Sachikatva Iriati. That means they lives after having the translation would be realized the deathless, so Nibbana. But actually means realize means to be a witness of Nibbana. And maybe it was in the article. I think it was in the translation itself. I don't have it in front of me, but I think the Bhikkhu Bodhi said that actually they go to the Devaloka. So basically, they become anagamin because that means that they see Nibbana and they are destined to Nibbana, but not immediately. That doesn't mean that they have already become arahant. So I think that was the I think the slippery part that may actually mislead to the conclusion that those disciples became arahant. It's not explicitly stated. There are different formulas for reaching nibbana, and they are not used there. So
Yes.
I would say those people had a taste, had a
Okay.
direct experience of nibbana, but not the actually entrance into nibbana.
Yes. Thank you, Ajahn Giuliano. Bibek, last words, please.
Yeah, very last word. I wanted to further clarify a little bit on what Ben said. Um, uh, it is often said that in the tantric tradition, uh, people do not follow any kind of vow. There are no ordained monks, and then they drink, and then they indulge in sexual activities, and so on and so forth. I just want to say that it is extremely difficult to maintain the tantric vows. It is not like these nakpas, what we call the lay practitioners, those who wear a white robe, and then they have a long hair, and so on and so forth. The lay practitioners, it is said that they have more than 100,000 vows to carry on. That means it is so difficult that you have to be extremely mindful on each and every movement, and then they can have that kind of very advanced practices such as union with a consort only when they are well prepared. It is not a cup of tea for everyone. I just wanted to just say that, so that there might not be any kind of misjudgment about this point. Thank you.
Yes. So basically, we are talking about we being extremely mindful, regardless of which discipline
Yes.
we or which path we take. Mindful, we have to be very mindful, very focused, and I believe we require dedication, and I believe vows are also essentials, regardless of whether bhikshu or bodhisattvas or to pursue and to get the fruit. We need these qualities, I believe. So on that note, we will conclude here, and we will say dedications, and then we will make the announcements on what will happen next. Maybe Ajahn Vivek, you can start with, I believe, Sanskrit dedication.
Okay. um, अनेन पुण्येन तु सर्वदर्शिताम् अवाप्य निर्जित्य च दोषविद्विषः जरारुजामृत्युमहोर्मि सङ्कुलात् समुद्धरेयं भवसागरात् जगत्. So basically what it says is that uh, because of this punya, or the merit I have accumulated, I will attain the omniscience and remove all the kleshas which are my enemies. and then I will rescue all the sentient beings from the ocean of samsara, which is full of tumultuous perils and different kind of dangers. So this is from the verse written by, normally it is attributed to Arya Shura, who wrote the Jatakamala. Thank you.
Yes. Ajahn Giuliano, please.
Sukho viveko tuttassa, sutta dhammassa passato, avyapajam sukham loke, panam bhuteso samyamo, sukha virakata loke, kamanam samatikkamo, asmi manassa yovinayo, etam ve paramant sukham. In brief, happiness is the letting go of kama, attachment to sense pleasures, is the letting go of aversion, but the supreme happiness is the letting go of the perception I am, so the ego.
Thank you, Ajahn Giuliano. Ajahn Bem, please.
Zamba Baba Jidar Kambada, Kunto Zambo de Antishinde, Dedan Kuge, Jozo Daloji, Gavada Tanjera to. So I didn't know. We didn't translate it the last time, so if the previous persons translated it. So these are verses that say that may I train and study the same way like Manjushri and Samantha Bhatta did, and I dedicate all the merit in order to be able like them.
Thank you, everyone. And then I will say the four great vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it. May all beings be well, happy, and safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
We have a brief announcement on the 15th of May, Kuala Lumpur, 8 p.m. time, or Bangkok would be 7 p.m. We have peace in each moment, guided Zen meditation, guided by Venerable Myung An Sunim. I'm sure it will be a very meaningful session. So on that note, I would like to thank you, everyone, all the directors and all the panelists. And I think we had a very interesting and meaningful conversation today. And Bem, this is the first time I'm hosting you here, so I hope there will be more sessions, and please join us again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Giuliano. Thank you, Bibek. Have a good evening, good day, good, I don't know, whatever time zone you're in.
Good everything.
Everything. May all be auspicious. Sarva Mangalam.
Sarva
Sarva Mangala.